Yo, welcome back to J-Dub Hacks Health Day 112. I figured I'd take you in the car. I haven't done that for a little bit. I'm heading to the gym to do my pull day today, full body pull. Did full body push yesterday. Amazing, you guys, with all those extra carbohydrates and just some extra calories. About 300 extra calories, which is really nice to do for now. Today, I want to talk about AI because it's such a hot topic, especially in my business of cybersecurity, and kind of my thoughts around it because I know people have very strong opinions on it. And I think kind of jury's out, right, on whether it's going to end humanity or whether it's going to be a great, um, you know, jobs are going to go away, all that stuff. And there's always the possibility for great tools like this to have both positive and negative impacts. What I fear is like most discussions, we get really polarized around it. So it's either going to be all good or all bad. And you'll see this with a number of topics. But AI, when I discuss it with people, they're either way against it or way for it. And I think where we should land is probably like right in the middle. So in my job, it has helped tremendously as a tool, not to replace what I do, to help enhance what I can do, the ability of how much work I can get done. And what I mean by that is I no longer have to work through big complex log files or spreadsheets. A lot of the stuff I can have an LLM go and get that data for me very rapidly. It's much better at me at kind of surfacing interesting things in log files. Where I see it in the Microsoft security world, it's really good. And you'll hear a word for those not in the industry called agent. And what that means is a large language model, an AI that is kind of set to do one single task. So we will build what's called an agent to do something. So there's a couple in Microsoft. There's, hey, I want to triage all the alerts and incidents that come in. And so I will have an agent do that triage part for me and do as much automation as I can. So instead of me going through, let's say, 100 alerts every morning when I come in to look at that kind of queue, maybe the triage agent, which I've trained and I'm confident with, right? You have to go through that part, has done a lot of that work for me and says, hey, 97 of these we kind of closed, we auto remediated, and we're happy with. There's three that we really want to look at. So my workload for the day just went from 100 to 3, and I'm fairly confident, at least for now, because I've tested this, I've done a lot of the research on it, that those work well. That's just one example. And I think a lot of y'all out there in the gym and fitness space are trying to use AI for as a fitness coach and a kind of a training mechanism, and that can work as well. But remember, it's a tool, it's an enhancement. There's still things you're going to need to do, and it has to be kind of specific around how you feel. So, like, I don't base my training just how it's written, like, I like how it's written down, I like those things, but your body. How did you respond to the lift? How are you recovering in between that? How are you doing that? And the LLM is not going to know that. I guess you could tell it that and keep having it learn. Back to my AI rant outside of that. I think if you are against it, I totally get it. And that's fine. Don't use it. My fear for you is that you're really going to fall behind. And whether you like it or not, you might need to start incorporating AI into your daily workflow. Or I think you're going to fall behind the people that are. And so this is one of those things where you kind of have to put your emotions aside and your fears and go, okay, it doesn't really matter how I feel about the technology. It's something I most likely am going to have to adopt and use. And I think most of you guys are. And we'll see where it goes. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We call that FUD in the industry about how it's going to end humanity. And maybe. It could. So I think that's one of the possibilities. But what that doesn't into account for me is the strength and resilience of humans and human beings and our ability to adapt a technology and look at it from both sides of the coin. I think every technology we've ever invented has good parts and bad parts to it. And to hyper focus on one or the other is missing the overall point. So far, I think AI does greater good than it does bad. And it certainly has some bad features to it, some bad outcomes for us as humans and young people learning. But it certainly also has some really positive ones. I think the biggest one for me is when you think about kids learning nowadays. So the bad part is, oh, kids aren't going to learn anything. They're going to cheat. They're just going to use LLM to do their work. Fair. That's a fair argument. I think the other side of it is they have a 24/7 really smart teacher on the other side that if they're curious and ask questions about, they can interact with, and your teacher is not available 24/7, nights, weekends. So we need to meet students at the point that they're curious, and I think this goes for all domains of life, is we try to force it into a window and they may not be ready in that window to take on that data. But when they are curious, there's an LLM there to help that they can ask questions for, and in my opinion, get very, very good results from as long as you get good at prompting it correctly. So there's a skill I believe in, there's a fancy term called prompt engineering. It's just setting up the LLM correctly. So as silly as it sounds, you can ask your LLM not to make things up because it will. LLMs at the end of the day are meant to please you and it wants to give you the most supportive answer it thinks you want to get. Whether that's real or not, sometimes it just wants to kind of say, hey, this is what I think they're expecting the answer, so I'm going to give them this answer. We can simply ask them not to do that. Hey, I don't want you to give me the answer that pleases me. Please don't make anything up. Please ensure that it's a real fact that you've researched it. And just in doing that prompt, you'll be surprised how much better those answers get. And it will still make stuff up. So we want to verify it. Back to the teacher part, I think if an inquisitive kid can go out there and use this tool when they're curious to get more research on data, it's just fantastic, right? When I was a kid, there used to be door-to-door salesmen that would sell these encyclopedias, and we got a big set of Encyclopedia Britannica 'cause I was so excited because you can go look anything up in this book. And then the internet came in the same concept of like, hey, we can Google things, we have access, and we have freed up knowledge to be available to everybody. I think in the age of AI, it's one step farther in that we have that encyclopedic internet-based knowledge that is extremely interactive and we can continue to query in what we call normal language, right? I can just ask it questions like, hey, tell me about this topic, and it'll come back, and then you can refine that search. So I see a lot of pros in it. There's negatives too. I've heard of people getting in relationships with LLMs. I've heard of people using them as for doctor advice or as a therapist. And okay, the jury's probably out on that. It's probably not a great idea. I think you should probably go to a trained person. Why? Because an LLM doesn't know what it's like to be human. And when we're talking about mental health or we're talking about physical things, your doctor's human and they're going to know and relate to other patients in the human world that we know. And the LLM, I don't think, is really ever going to relate on that level. So, yeah, I'm almost to the gym. I'm going to do my push day. We'll have to cut this down, I think, for my short, but I'll publish the long form version as well if anybody's interested and just we'll go from there. But I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna get I said push, didn't I? I guess I just want to do push every day, and I'm gonna do my pull day today, and I think it's gonna be a really good lift. I'm excited. I carved up this morning. I even took in 30 grams of protein in a Fairlife shake, so that's new. I usually would always go fasted, but because I've been getting up a little earlier on the weekends, I figure I may as well eat and get kind of properly energized, kind of fueled up, if you will, for my lift and see how I feel. Yesterday, I felt fine on the exact same thing. Pretty lame, y'all, but it was just rice cakes and a Fairlife 30-gram protein drink. Yeah, that's it, man. So I'll see you guys on the next one.